If you go to midterm, all, it will say over here, check your cards here. I put up 2 sets of cards with a threat. The threat is, don't copy these. Don't cut and paste them. You'll be sorry if you do. You can use them to check what you have, to improve upon them. But if you don't even think about them, and you just cut and paste, you will get the 49 out of 50 points or whatever. If you had a few photos, you'll get 50 out of 50 or 53 out of 50, but you won't know shit. And the midterm is 50% on the card. So doing them will help you learn them. And the set I put up here is 2 sets. One is a C, very minimum set. In other words, she got 49 out of 50 points. It's a good set. It has a good drops card and a minimum for each one, which is good because we don't want to learn anything extra. I know. I don't want to learn anything extra. So there they are. It's 99% of them. There might be one card missing, but if it is, I'll point it out. Somebody can send me an email about it, and I'll make sure it's on there. Yeah.
Going over the cards, this is just something that I was wondering. Is the pH balances, is that something that we really need to...
Yes. There will be a question on what does bromophenol blue is a what, and we'll say pH indicator, and then I'll say at what pH is it blue, and at what pH is it not blue, or olive green. Alright, so here is another set. This is a B- set. In other words, this person got 51 out of 50. So to get the total, you remember, the maximum you can get is 55 if it's absolutely perfect. Jesus came down and touched it and made beautiful pictures. For the ones that need pictures, and you probably wouldn't need more than 6 or 8 pictures that require color, like bromophenol blue requires a color. You have to have a color picture to know what that color of blue is. It's a specific color of blue. So anyway, this set got 51 out of 50, 1 point bonus on it because they were complete, but they lacked any pictures. And so this is a very good set. Either one you can use. You can cut and paste most of it. You can add to it. You can subtract from it. I don't care, but I'm warning you, if you just cut and paste, you will be sorry. Remember how I said if you memorize my questions, you will be sorry? A lot of you were. Because you can't memorize my questions. This I'm asking you to memorize. All right. Yes?
Where should we get all the information for the cards from that atlas?
Right? No, right there. Unknown cards test button. Go down here. Somebody sent me an email this morning saying iron test didn't work, and I fixed the link. And it tells you about the 2 iron tests, Kligger's iron and peptone iron. And at the top, I say we use peptone iron deep and Kligger's iron slant deep this term for your cards. So all you have to do... No, 2 different tubes. You can put them on the same card because they test for the same thing, or you can put them on separate cards. I don't care. Yes?
Can you click on the ultraviolet one? So I think there's more to that page that doesn't open sometimes. Is there supposed to be more things on the bottom? It says click below the blue.
Yeah, to go to another link. To
So
somewhere, another page. That's all there is to it. And if you look at the check card, you'll find that it just says pour a plate, take a sterile Q-tip, spread your unknown all over the whole thing, take the top off, cover half of with a card, stick it under UV light for 15 minutes, take it out, put it in the incubator, come back the next day, count the dots. That's the experiment.
When you say come back the next day, if it's not possible, isn't it like...
I pull them out every day.
Okay.
Every day you put the plates in, the next day I put them in the refrigerator, and whenever you're here next you read them. Yeah?
Okay, so for the inoculation, like just an example, like the ones we had to do, like let's just say like the broth.
Loop dip.
Yeah, okay, so that's that. And then for the
Plate?
incubation, is it always according to the op-temp procedure?
Yes. Everything should have according to the op-temp procedure, and then there's a guideline on how long according to it, unless it says exception like litmus milk, tryptone, and urea are 48 hours. The rest of them, if you don't add drops, they go for 7 days. If you do add drops, they go for 7 days, check every other day. That's it. It's not hard.
And where do we find the pH of that on the?
Usually it's on the website. You may have to look it up in the atlas. I think I put them all on the website. On the website. Other questions? Yeah.
For the VP test, the incubation, I'm not understanding that one.
It says from 14 to 21 days. It's not hard to understand. It's the longest. Actually, the longest is gelatin. It is 21 days. And then VP can be done as early as 10 days, but never at 7.
Because in order to determine the incubation, I was following the notes that we took in class the other day when you were...
Yes, and then you read afterward. So if you click on Midterm Lab, you click on Unknown Card, you click on VP Test, you read VP, and it says, one tube is used for,
Is there a separate card?
somewhere here it says 10 to 14 days. No
It's
less
on the
than
bottom
4
right there,
labs.
under cautions. It's
This
under
is 4
cautions.
This is a one card?
14 days. After no less than 4 labs. 1 lab is Tuesday. 2 labs is Thursday. 3 labs is Tuesday again.
Plus 2.
Another one is Thursday, so that's 2 weeks. 4 labs for VP. It's the second longest. In fact, that's a test question on the midterm. What are the 2 longest incubation times? Gelatin, 21 days, and VP, 10 to 14. Everything else is 7. And if you'll send me an email, I'll change 4 labs to 10 days to 14 in case you don't understand what 4 labs mean. Other questions? Yeah.
What goes in the chemistry part?
The chemistry of what? VP?
No, any of them. Is it just the 2 paragraphs?
Well, you don't copy the 2 paragraphs. You
No.
read it and put it into something like, for instance, on MR. MR is a methyl red test to see if your microbe has the enzyme to break down glucose to, let's see, not 2,3-butadiol. Somebody says there somewhere. Do break down to mixed acid, which with methyl red causes it to drop below 4.4 and turns yellow, cherry red, indicating a positive. So that would be the chemistry for that one. If your microbe has the enzyme to break down glucose to mixed acids, then it will be positive on the MR test. And positive, when you add methyl red to it, it will turn cherry red. And then there's a picture down below. If it's negative, it's yellow. If it's positive, it's cherry red.
Is that like an example picture if you want?
Yep.
Mr. Hicks,
Yep.
one more question, please. On the O and PG test,
It's just,
is it
it's a
cooked for
procedure,
7
not a
days?
test. Even though it says test there, it's under a procedure card. Go in and see procedure. All it says is take 1 milliliter of water, scoop up the growth off your Fligger's iron after you read your Fligger's iron, and drop an ONPG tablet in it and stick it in the incubator overnight. And if it's yellow the next day, your microbe is a mutant that is like people that can't digest lactose.
Oh, so it's just add the tablet and check overnight?
Right.
One of the instructions I read says wait 5 minutes.
No.
No?
It says overnight. All right. For worksheet, just again to review, if you read this right here, it says this worksheet is that video. And if you read right here, it says this worksheet is World in the Week and that video. Yeah.
If you can come up with a couple of questions, a couple of answers to the questions.
At the end of class today, I will answer them. If there's a couple that you couldn't answer. There's one that says, what date did Clinton apologize? All you have to do is Google it.
Okay.
And there's a little 30-second video that shows the apology. Other questions? All right, so let's get busy because, as I said, we're 45 minutes behind every other class. So first I'm going to discuss what you need to put in the essay. And the essay should not be any longer than 2 pages, for God's sake. I don't want to read any more than that. It should be in complete sentences. You can make a list, like if you have a couple of introductory sentences and then you say, the definition uses the following. The definition is a systematic organized study of the natural laws of the universe where each important word is explained briefly below colon. And then you put organized means limits, so on. So you can use colon and lists along with the whole thing is in paragraph form and sentence form. You cannot use phrases. And a sentence has to be something that has a verb inside it somewhere. Alright? So here's what the essay is. The essay has 3 parts. And by the way, if you click on essay button, it will tell you what the essay is. On the website, there's an essay button. And there is 25 points for the goal of science, 50 points for the definition and explaining each important word briefly, and 25 points for explaining the character or process or nature of science, or how does it get from an idea to a scientific law. And so that's how the point spread is on the essay. Now, what do you need to put? Well, you need to be able to explain that the goal of every scientist is to use the same procedure, the same way of investigating the universe, find out how it works. And this way that they've all agreed upon is called the scientific method, that is a comparative, objective, reliable, and repeatable reasoning system. And that a scientific law is something that they're looking for, and that's how the universe works. The universe is everything that exists, whether or not we know it. And the way in which science is funded is by convincing the public to give us money by having an accurate prediction, by coming up with a good answer that is proven to be true by prediction. So that would be something like what I would want for the goal of a scientist. To use the scientific method that everyone agreed on, that is comparative, objective, reliable, repeatable, measurable, and metric, to discover how the universe functions, which is called the scientific laws. And by the way, they functioned that way in the past, they function that way now, and they will always function that way. That's what a scientific law is. To find out how the universe works. What is the causality, the workings of the universe? And then to pay for it by convincing people that we've discovered something. And how do we convince them? We convince them by giving an accurate prediction. If you take a baby aspirin every day for 20 years, your colon cancer rate will be 11% less than those that didn't, which is a scientific study that's been done. So, that's the easy part. That's 25 points. Almost everybody writes. The goal of every scientist is to use one procedure, the scientific method, which is a comparative, reliable, repeatable, objective reasoning method to search for the way in which the universe works and always has worked, which is called scientific laws. And the universe is everything that we know, everything that exists. Almost everybody loses 10 points because they forget to put. And to fund it by convincing the public by accurate prediction. So, almost everybody forgets the funding part. Don't be one that loses 10 points off. Next was the actual definition. And remember, the definition of science, you have to give me this definition. The only thing you can switch is these two. You could say science is the organized systematic study, or you can say science is the systematic organized study. Because in English, it doesn't matter which one of these two modifiers comes first. Sorry. Of the natural laws of the universe. Look. Like a white trash trailer here. Too hot or too cold. And then you've got to, on this, once you give the definition, you say, and then to explain in common terms each word in the definition briefly, and I forgot to put up here that at number 5 is at 4:30 you will get your paper back. Don't let me forget either.
Our lab practical.
4:30.
Your lab practical one paper I graded. So, the next thing to do is make a list and explain briefly each important word. And the most important, the most difficult one to explain is the word organized. The very first and most important thing about the word organized is that everyone agrees to one way of researching the universe. They agree not to use religion, not to use astrology, not to use the Bible, not to use grandma, not to use the Ouija board, but to agree to use one procedure that they then call, under the word systematic, the scientific method. So the first and most important thing under the word organized is everybody agrees to the same procedure, if you're going to call it science. Secondly, they say that there are rules to being a scientist and limits. And the rules are pretty simple. The rules are that you have to use the scientific method, and you can't use anything else. And the limits is something we've never really thought about much in the United States, and that is that science has limitations. And the limitations of science are that everything that a scientist works on must be detectable by the human senses, or an instrument that reports out in the human senses. Now, we can't go to the sun, but we can send an instrument that will report back to us in our human senses from the sun. So remember, a scientist can research anything that we can detect exists with our human senses. Now, there are lots of things that we cannot detect with our human senses that we know exist. Love, God, all of those things, even hatred, those kinds of things. Unless you can invent a love meter, a scientist can't say anything about science when he's talking about love. He can speak personally, but he cannot say that there is a scientific measure of love because no one's designed one yet. Now, to give you an example of how science changes, and this is the last part of the whole essay, what is the character, nature, or process of science? And in that essay, in that part, we're going to write science is not history, and it's not linear. It is a series of misconceptions that are revised. The more we know, the more we find out we were not exactly completely correct, and we have to revise what we thought before. Now, what am I talking about? Well, for 900 years, if you walked into a scientific establishment and you said, I believe that I'm a doctor, I'm an MD, and I believe that hope is an important component of healing, they would throw you out. Because hope, for many years, was considered unmeasurable. Most people thought that hope was important to whether or not you get well, but nobody could prove it. Until a woman, W-O-M-A-N, okay, from Los Angeles, actually from Glendale. She grew up in Glendale, California. Her father was a doctor. She grew up as a teenager and wanted to be a doctor. She went to work with her father at County USC Hospital. She worked as a candy scriber and then a volunteer. And then as she progressed through high school, she went on to medical school and became a doctor. And during the whole time, she had a secret, a dirty little secret. She believed that hope was a scientific component of healing, that it was important to a person's healing, whether they healed and how fast they healed. But she dare not speak its name aloud because it wasn't scientific. They would have said, where's your hope meter? How are you going to measure hope? That's not scientific. That's an opinion and an observation. And observations can be science, but you've got to back it up with objective numbers. And so she became a very famous oncologist at Norris Cancer Research Institute, and very powerful in the medical community, doing lots of research and getting lots of publications. And she got elected the first woman president of a major medical school at USC. And in her invocation, or whatever you call it, her speech, when she was, anointed, or whatever you say, won the election, the president of the medical school at USC, her speech was on hope is a scientific component of healing, and I'm going to prove it. Shocking everyone. And secretly, she had been doing an experiment. Remember, she worked with the terminally ill, so she got people that had 1 year to live, that were terminally ill, and she divided them into 3 groups. Each group got the same treatment. In other words, whatever money could buy, whatever USC could provide, no cost was a limit. They got the best treatment available today. Number 2, 2 groups got the traditional doctor-patient relationship. What's the traditional doctor-patient relationship to the terminally ill? Don't worry, honey, we're doing everything we can. No, you don't need to know anymore. We're doing the best we can. Just trust me, you'll be fine. They don't tell you much when you're terminally ill. They just say, well, it doesn't look good, but we're doing the best we can. No, we're not going to explain what we're doing. You just trust us. We're gods, and we'll take care of things. That's the traditional American model of medicine. They're gods. We'll pay them anything, and they'll make us well. And we ask no questions. All right? So 2 of the groups got that. All right? And the control group, that's all they got. The best medicine available and the traditional doctor-patient relationship. That's group 1, the control. The 2 test groups, 1 group got positive counseling. They got psychotherapy and psychoanalysis to maintain a positive outlook on the future. Ceramics classes and painting classes and meditation exercises, and constantly seeing therapists and being in groups to maintain a positive attitude. And then the last group got the positive attitude, psychotherapy, so forth, but they also got complete control of their therapy. In other words, the doctor would come in and say, these are your blood test results. Here's where it looks bad. Here are 3 things we can do. Here's what I recommend. But here are the side effects of each one. You choose which one we're going to do. And what do you think happened after 3 years when everybody was dead? The 2 groups, the one that had positive psychotherapy and the best medicine possible, and the group that had psychotherapy, the best medicine possible, and control over their future, some control over their life, had significantly longer survival. Isn't hope 2 things? A positive attitude and a feel that you have some control over what's going to happen to you? She devised a scientific measurement for something we never thought was measurable scientifically. So in the past, when we thought we couldn't answer something in science, it just takes somebody smart enough to figure out how. And by the way, that's been replicated around the world in almost every medical school in the world and found to be true.
When you say measurable, how do you measure it? Like how, is it a number?
Survival time. number of days survived beyond prediction of death,
That's how you.
and quality, of course, of life.
Okay.
They gave a subjective scale of what they thought their quality of life was each day, and then the number of days they survived past what the prediction was. And of course, since they were assigned to the groups completely at random, if they misdiagnosed somebody, it would have been spread out among all three. So, just to remind you, what can be studied by science can change if people figure out a way to measure it. But some things I don't think will ever change. Can you measure God?
No.
Not that I know of. And so whenever they have those, like, one of the things that just gets on my gay nerves so bad is when they have some scientific announcement and they send the science, LA Science editor to interview somebody. First of all, none of these NBC, CBS news agencies hire a scientist to be their scientific journalist. They hire a journalist that doesn't know shit about science. And so when Time magazine had that cover that said God is dead, the scientific journalist of the LA Times went to a Nobel Prize winner and said, "Is God dead?" Now, can a scientist answer that question? No, he can't even give an opinion. It can't be measured. And that idiot thought that because you got a Nobel Prize in sociology, you would know everything about God. If you want to know answer that question, you should ask the Pope or a mullah or a rabbi. You shouldn't be asking a Nobel Prize winning scientist. So remember, there are some things probably will never be measurable by science because they're not detectable by the human senses. Remember that everything must be measured in a reliable and repeatable manner using the metric system. Did we discuss this last time?
No.
All right. So who knows what the word reliable means?
Everybody understands. Something that if you measure will always be the same, it won't change. It's
Actually, that's
reliable.
repeatable.
Everybody agrees on it?
What?
Everybody agrees on it?
Everybody knows what you're talking about. If you say blah, 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 like, let's get an example. Some model of Lexus, whatever. If you mention that, everybody knows what you're talking about. What's not reliable is better to explain. The English system of measurement. There are 164 countries in the world, and 161 use the metric system. 3 don't. What are they? The United States of America, the great country of Tanzania, and Jamaica. And Jamaica is converting to the metric system. So in a few years, there'll only be 2 out of 164 countries that use the English system of measurement. Not even the English use it. Now, what's the English, the standard organism in micro is Escherichia coli. And the standard measurement is 1 micrometer because E. coli is 1 micrometer long by a half micrometer wide. So what's the standard of measurement in the English system? The foot. And what's it based on? An English king's foot back in the 900s. Okay, where's the foot stick kept? Where do they keep the standard foot stick? So everybody knows what you're talking about. There is no foot stick. Nobody knows. And if you buy a foot ruler in different countries, there will be differences. And what else is in the English system? Ever pulled out your silverware drawer? 3 teaspoons equal a tablespoon. Now I want you to find out, open your silverware drawer and find out how many different sizes of teaspoons you've got. Because I've got 4. 4 different sets, because the kids come, my sister, and a minimum for each one, which is good because we don't want to learn anything extra, I know. I don't want to learn anything extra. So there they are. It's 99% of them. There might be one card missing, but if it is, I'll point it out. Somebody can send me an email about it, and I'll make sure it's on there. Yeah.
Going over the cards, this is just something that I was wondering. Is the pH balances, is that
Yes.
something that we really need to?
Yes. There will be a question on what does bromthanol blue is a what, and we'll say pH indicator, and then I'll say at what pH is it blue and at what pH is it not blue, or olive green. All right, so here is another set. This is a B- set. In other words, this person got 51 out of 50. So to get the total, you remember, the maximum you can get is 55. And if you look at the check card, you'll find that it just says, pour a plate, take a sterile Q-tip, spread your unknown all over the whole thing, take the top off, cover half of with a card, stick it under UV light for 15 minutes, take it out, put it in the incubator, come back the next day, count the dots. That's the experiment.
When you say come back the next day, if it's not possible, isn't it like
I pull them out every day.
Okay.
Every day you put the plates in, the next day I put them in the refrigerator, and whenever you're here next you read them. Yeah.
Okay, so for the inoculation, like just an example, like the ones we had to do, like let's just say like the broth.
Loop dip
Yeah, okay, so that's that. And then for the
plate.
incubation, is it always according to the Optom procedure?
Yes. Everything should have according to the Optim procedure, and then there's a guideline on how long according. If you go to midterm, all, it will say over here, check your cards here. I put up 2 sets of cards with a threat. The threat is, don't copy these, don't cut and paste them. You'll be sorry if you do. You can use them to check what you have, to improve upon them, but if you don't even think about them and you just cut and paste, you will get the 49 out of 50 points or whatever. If you add a few photos, you'll get 50 out of 50 or 53 out of 50, but you won't know shit. And the midterm is 50% on the card. So doing them will help you learn them. And the set I put up here is 2 sets. One is a C, very minimum set. In other words, she got 49 out of 50 points. It's a good set. It has a good drops card. If it's absolutely perfect, Jesus came down and touched it and made beautiful pictures. For the ones that need pictures, and you probably wouldn't need more than 6 or 8 pictures that require color, like bromthanol blue requires a color. You have to have a color picture to know what that color of blue is. It's a specific color of blue. So anyway, this set got 51 out of 50, 1 point bonus on it because they were complete, but they lacked any pictures. And so this is a very good set. Either one you can use. You can cut and paste most of it. You can add to it. You can subtract from it. I don't care, but I'm warning you. If you just cut and paste, you will be sorry. Remember how I said if you memorize my questions, you will be sorry? A lot of you were. Because you can't memorize my questions. This I'm asking you to memorize. All right. Yes?
Where should we get all the information for the cards from that atlas?
Right? No, right there. Unknown cards test button. Go down here. Somebody sent me an email this morning saying iron test didn't work, and I fixed the link. And it tells you about the 2 iron tests, Kligger's iron and peptone iron. And at the top, I say we use peptone iron deep and Kligger's iron slant deep this term for your cards. So all you have to do.
Same test?
No, 2 different tubes. You can put them on the same card because they test for the same thing, or you can put them on separate cards. I don't care. Yes?
Can you click on the ultraviolet ones? I think there's more to that page that doesn't open sometimes. Is there supposed to be more things on the bottom? It says
No.
click below the blue.
Yeah, to go to another link, to
So that's
somewhere,
all for that
another
one?
page. That's all there is to it.